Hello friends, let us discuss about one more disease which is commonly known as SARS. SARS is called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. The SARS, MERS and Corona, they falls under almost similar category. Their symptoms are similar, but there is a slight difference in their genetic makeup. So the severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS is a viral respiratory disease caused by the SARS associated coronavirus, and it was first identified at the end of February 2003 during an outbreak that emerged in China and spread to around 4 countries. World Health Organization coordinated the international investigation with the assistance of the Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network, we call it GOARN, and worked closely with health authorities in affected countries to provide epidemiological, clinical, and logistical support and to bring the outbreak under control. So it's a World Health Organization and are the one agency which put all the effort to contain this disease. SARS is an airborne virus and can spread through small droplets of saliva in a similar way to the cold and influenza what you see in regular days. And it was the first severe and readily transmissible new disease to emerge in the 21st century and showed a clear capacity to spread along the routes of international air travel. This is the challenge. So in every slide I tell that backpackers are the one which carry disease from a place to place, but here also same thing is happened. International air travels are under high risk because when they travel from one destination and the destination they carry this virus. SARS can also be spread indirectly via surface that have been touched by someone who is infected with virus. This is one more challenge. We touch every surface when we go to a mall, when we go to airport, when we go to railway station, or maybe in public transport, even in our private vehicles. We touch every surface. So when we touch that surface, if it is contaminated with this SARS-CoV virus, which is sufficient to cause infections. The most patients identified with SARS were previously healthy adults, approximately aged between 25 to 70 years. A few suspects of SARS have been reported among children under the age of 15 years. The case fatality among persons with illness meeting the current World Health case definition for probable and suspected case of SARS is around 3%. That means, according to World Health Organization, SARS mortality rate is around 3%. It's not a deadly disease, but the biggest challenge is it can spread in a fast move. So there we need to contain them, and it can spread to larger area and to larger populations. So that's the challenging thing compared to any other disease in for global concerns. So if you look at the SARS, this is connected to a group of viruses are there. So this is really challenging. So now because why I'm telling society and culture is the biggest threat here. So because fear of contracting the virus from consuming infected wild animals results in a public bans and reduced business for meat markets in southern China. No, many places it happens even in Corona time. You may remember what really happened is. So that means there's a challenge when this kind of disease emerges. Now, this severe acute respiratory syndrome or SARS stand as one of the most alarming and pivotal outbreaks in recent history, marking a critical juncture in global health and infection disease management. Because whenever a new outbreaks happens, those outbreaks are really challenging because uh, it is outbreak. So first identified in Foshan's Guangdong, China in 2002. The World Health Organization was notified of the outbreak in February 2003. That means November 2002 it appeared, and World Health Organization notified in 2003 and issued a global alert in March 2003. That means it took around 6 months. Initially, the cause of outbreak was unknown, and some media outlet reported that an influenza virus was a potential culprit. The major part of the outbreaks lasted about 8 months, and the World Health Organization declared SARS contained on 5th July 2000. However, several SARS cases were reported until May 2004. In late December 2019, SARS-CoV strain of coronavirus closely related to that one with caused SARS was discovered in Wuhan, Hubei province of China, and this strain caused COVID-19, and which we are going to discuss about that later. So where at all these outbreaks happened? It was first happened in China, then it moved to Hong Kong, then to Taiwan, Canada, Singapore, Vietnam, United States, Philippines, Thailand, Germany, Mongolia, France, then South Africa, Kuwait, Ireland, Spain, Switzerland, many places. If you look at many places, this has happened from one place to other place of the globe. On November 16th of 2002, an outbreak of SARS was first started here. Then the first one affected people in the food industry, such as farmers, market vendors, chefs. And the outbreak spread to healthcare workers, then to whole people public. So this is the challenge. So it was initially from the farmers, market vendors, and chefs. From there to because they seek treatments. When they seek treatment, it will contract these healthcare workers. So the healthcare workers were under challenge. Early in the epidemic, the Chinese government discouraged its press from reporting on SARS. That's the challenging thing. Now the new pneumonial cases are appearing in China. The government is saying it is a normal pneumonial virus, but the reality we don't know. This is a challenging because there is no press freedom in China like India or maybe in West, and which leads to delay reporting in World Health Organization. Initially did not provide information to Chinese outside Guangdong province, whereas the disease believed to have originated. Also, the World Health Organization team that traveled to Beijing was not allowed to visit Guangdong province for several weeks. This resulted in international criticism, which seems to have led to change in government policy in early April. See, in January 2002-3, one incident was happened. I just want to quote that. A fishmonger named Zhou Zofan checked in San Juan's Memory Hospital in Guangzhou on 30th January, where he infected around, see, one fishmonger was infected. He was taken to a hospital for treatment, where he infected around 30 nurses and a doctor. The virus soon spread to nearby hospitals. So this is the how things. And in February 2003, Liu Jinal became the Hong Kong SARS index patient. So this is challenging. You need to identify from where this exact origin and who is the index patient, who is the primary contact, who is the secondary contact, and who are the healthcare workers who are associated with treating those diseases. So it's challenging, really challenging. It's not easy the way we speak, because country where population is thickly inhabited, so that is a challenge, not that just size of the country but the populations. SARS is caused by a virus called SARS-CoV, a novel strain of coronavirus belonging to the Coronaviridae family, which include virus known to infect humans and various animal species. This particular strain drew attention due to its ability to transmit from animals to humans and then between humans, and causing a severe respiratory illness, distress. The zoonotic origin of SARS-CoV have been traced back to cave-dwelling horseshoe bats in China, with the intermediate host throughout to be civets, although it remains subject of ongoing research. So many people blame bats, and some people say maybe the civets, but the reality is still research is going on to find out who was the real culprit or who is the natural host of this, I mean the reservoir of this virus. So it's not easy to get complete details, because the agencies are different peoples are working across different areas, and coordinating them and getting details is not so easy as you think, because country like China won't provide information to outside world. They are afraid, because it's difficult. See, if the whole global population start thinking in one direction, then it is easy to collect information and disseminate that information to everyone. But it's not in case of China. Chinese government has got its own policies. Unless they change the policy, it's very difficult for other third world country to enter there and get the information and collect and start working on it. Otherwise, that disease should come to that country, then okay. The characteristic symptoms of SARS are common, like high fever, dry cough, all those things, and in acute cases, pneumonia. And acute respiratory distress syndrome is also a common thing that is called ARDS. Its rapid onset and the potential for severe complications led to alarm within the medical community and triggered a concerted efforts to contain its spreads. Now, what was the global response when this outbreak happens and they found the symptoms are similar to influenza? And the global response to SARS was marked by a blend of collaboration and challenges. The World Health Organization played a pivotal role. As we all know, this is the one agency which takes care of everything, that logistics support, management of fund, research, collecting data, making guidelines, making protocols, all those things. So official agents. Swift measures were implemented, including widespread quarantines, travel advisories, heightened infection control protocols within healthcare settings. Additionally, extensive research was conducted to understand the virus, develop diagnostics, to explore potential treatments. So now the thing is, one thing is we need to identify what virus it is. Once we identify that virus, maybe based on its genetic material or maybe in the conventional way, but we need to develop a diagnostic tool. Unless we have a proper diagnostics tool, we cannot identify what virus it is. So it's challenging. Then explore potentials for treatments. We need to identify what possible way we can treat. Outbreaks of SARS. The SARS outbreak originated in Guangdong province. That is the reality in late 2002, and it swiftly spread to multiple countries. If you understand, I already told about that, and it was caused by novel strain of SARS virus belonging to the same family virus as the common cold. And mostly people think it's of zoonotic origin because bats pass to human through intermediate hosts and potentially shivets in wet market. Wet market is a common thing in China. They eat everything, anything under this. So for them, any animal is not prohibited. So they will eat that. So when you talk about this outbreak in China, the SARS epidemic resulted in substantial public criticism. All the globe start criticizing China and prompted a government statement that privatizing health care in rural China had been a failure and brought a rural reform to the top of the policy agenda. So that has made a lot enough progress in China. That's why the Chinese people were ready to face COVID, but we were not. The globe were not, but they were ready because they had earlier outbreak. Now, what are the major symptoms? If you discuss symptoms in detail, so whenever any problems happens, we discuss the symptoms in detail. Whether we get entire informations or not is not the reality, but we need to check, right? It's not simple all the time to understand SARS-CoV in the same way that other people talk. So it's a similar to flu-like symptoms. High fever, often above 104 point, I mean degree Fahrenheit, was one of the initial and prominent symptoms. And respiratory symptoms like dry cough, difficulty breathing were common, and which could progress rapidly to pneumonia and ARDS. Muscle pains like patient often experience body aches, fatigues, and malaise. Now, what are the treatment options? That during the SARS outbreak, there were no specific antiviral medications available for the SARS-CoV virus. The treatment primarily focused on supportive care, including like hospitalization. So that is the only way we have when we contract with the disease. So we can hospitalize patients with severe symptoms required ICU order. Then oxygen therapy to help breathing difficulties, low oxygen levels to manage that. Oxygen therapy was the one possible to treat that. And steroids, in some cases, corticosteroids were used to reduce the lung inflammations. Then they were taken the measures like isolation and quarantines. Infected individuals were isolated and contacts were quarantined to prevent further transmissions. Now, how they managed? Infection control measures. Strict infection control practice in healthcare settings were crucial to prevent the spread of the virus among healthcare workers and patients. Public health interventions, measures such as quarantine, travel advisories, health screening at border places were in place. Then, what are the global collaborations? The World Health Organizations coordinated efforts globally facilitated information sharing and response strategies among countries. And research and vaccine development. This is the one thing. See, whenever we talk about research, people are asking what is the requirement of a research. So, because we are living in a world every day, the nature throws new challenges to human beings. To tackle the challenge, we need to develop a new combat machineries, maybe vaccines or maybe antiviral drugs or anything. So for that, what do we need is research. Extensive research was conducted to understand the virus. So first understanding the virus, then develop diagnostic test and explore potential treatment. That was the idea of research and vaccine. Although no vaccine was developed during the outbreak, research laid the groundwork for future vaccine efforts. That means initially there was no efforts were made to develop a vaccine in that stage, but in reality sense is there were a thought process happened that time. So because of that, what happens if the next outbreaks happen, people will be ready with vaccines. So what was the long term impact? This is the challenging one. See, infection comes and goes, so what is the long term effect? The SARS outbreak was ultimately contained by mid-2003 through stringent public healthcare measures and global collaborations. However, it left a lasting impact on global health systems. Lessons learned from SARS influenced future preparedness and long-term efforts leading to advancement in infectious disease surveillance, response protocol, and vaccine development strategies. So SARS, one more thing is this is we are talking in terms of public health measures or maybe what we are calling it is like how we can tackle future problems. But in real sense, it has got a long impact on our health also, individuals' health, because these are all viral infections. We don't know what is a real problem we as a human going to face once we got infected with this kind of virus. So that's the challenging thing. Every day it keep on throws a challenge. Our duty is to develop a new strategies either to manage the disease or else eliminate the disease. Many diseases were there earlier days. I mean the organisms were still it is there and they cause a disease. But what happened is either we acquired a herd immunity, that means everyone immune to that disease, or else we developed a medicine or maybe we developed a vaccine. So it won't happen overnight. It takes time. That means high-end research is needed, huge public funding is needed. So funding is important. Whenever we talk about disease, we don't talk about funding. Funding is not so easy, and getting good fund is good for any research. Unless you get a sufficient quantity of fund, it's extremely difficult to manage the resources and start doing a research develop. So that's why public-private partnership is always good. So that means the public funded, but the private will do the research. So then output will be good, and we can have a better treatment strategies and all. So in conclusion, the SARS outbreak of 2002 and 2003 was a watershed moment in the realm of global health, showcasing both the vulnerability and resilience of public health system. So this will clearly throw a light on how well we manage a public fund for a public health, and how is our public health care setup. So which is keep on showing a kind of challenge, because it's not so easy. So large country where the population is too high and the density of population is also too much, it's very difficult. Its rapid containment was a testament to international collaboration. So initially it started in November to not through, and by March or April they contained it. It's mainly because there is a collaboration from different agencies and the tireless efforts of healthcare workers and scientists. Particularly, we always don't see the role of scientists. So scientists are the one who really develop vaccines and what you are calling like diagnostic kits. The legacy of SARS continued to shape our understanding and response to emerging infectious disease, emphasizing the critical importance of preparedness, a rapid response, and global populations in safeguarding public health. Thank you.